with the first pick.
Thunderstruck! Thunderstruck! Yeah, Thunderstruck!
Welcome in, everyone. I am your host, Dan Baker, accompanied by my co-hosts, Evan Gooding and Mason Beck, to bring you the Fantasy Rant Podcast. Today, we'll talk about 6 players to target in trades, 3 players that you're going to want to trade away, and we'll spin the Wheel of Misfortune. Getting right into it, last week, quickly, it's still a new segment, so we'll touch on the Wheel of Misfortune. So we will each spin the wheel and choose one player from each position to join our team. We'll have a quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end. You get one pass, but after that, if you spin a second time, you are stuck with that player. The format is 1 point per reception and 4 points per passing touchdown. Let's get into who we had last week. So my team, I had Sam Howell against Chicago, Gus Edwards against Pittsburgh, Drake London against Houston, and Dalton Kincaid against Jacksonville. Evan, take it away for your team.
Yeah, my team, I had Joe Burrow versus Arizona, Miles Sanders versus Detroit, yuck, Michael Wilson versus Cincinnati, yuck, and then Logan Thomas, my champ, versus Chicago.
All right, and then for my team, I had my QB as Matthew Stafford, running back A.J. Dillon, Romeo Doubs, who very much disappointed me, and Kyle Pitts, who actually did something for once in his life.
Crazy, man. I traded away Kyle Pitts in a dynasty league last week, so you're welcome, all you Kyle Pitts managers out there, for that big performance. Wouldn't have happened without my trade, so. All right, so the winner of this week, Evan Gooding, inching it out by 3.7 points, or 3.7 points over me. I took the L, and Mason had just a 3.5 point L to Evan. Very tight race for the first week. So with that being said, we'll dive into this week's Wheel of Misfortune. If you are watching on YouTube, you can see my big old face with a big old L on it. If you watched the first episode of Fantasy Rant, we getting into it, learning the ropes. We all stared at the camera for about 10 seconds before the intro dropped, or the intro song dropped. So I took a screenshot from that and took all our dumb faces, threw an L on it, and whoever loses will get to be on the Wheel of Misfortune that following week. All right. So for this week, we have 6 guys. Generally speaking, we're going to say 4 to 6 guys that are on the fence of maybe you want to start this guy, but definitely not a sure thing. Then we'll throw in a couple duds in there. That's the name of the game, Wheel of Misfortune. This week we have Baker Mayfield going up against Detroit, Gardner Minshew going up against Jacksonville, Jimmy Garoppolo with a home game against the Patriots, Joshua Dobbs taking it to LA to play the Rams, Ryan Tannehill against the Baltimore Ravens, and Derek Carr against the Houston Texans. All right. Last week I kicked it off. I feel like it's only right for Evan to kick it off this week. So Evan, let's see who you got.
Let's spin it.
Spin that wheel. All right. We got Jimmy G going up against New England. What do you think, Evan?
I don't like it. I don't like it at all, to be honest. I have never been a huge fan of Jimmy G, and he threw 4 interceptions in the past 2 games, so the offense hasn't been looking too hot. Devontae Adams hasn't been looking too hot on that offense in that last game, at least with them. I'm going to pass. I'm going to spin again. I'm going to let you guys take it off here.
All right. Mason, you're going to be next up. Here we go. Spinning that wheel. Okay.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes, let Baker Man pick. I'm taking Baker Man.
Let's go. I think I know your answer based on that. He's going to
love
be
Baker Mayfield. I mean, there's a couple teams where in Superflex where Love is my second quarterback and I have Baker, and I'm honestly not mad at all about having Baker as my Superflex start for the week. He's looking good. Obviously, he hasn't shown the greatest fantasy numbers, but he's looking solid, and where he can have the potential to have some breakout games.
Yeah,
I
no,
agree. He was
absolutely.
one of my top 2 targets for hoping to spin on the wheel. So
I agree. And now
I'm a
with
little
Baker Mayfield off, I don't know. It's pretty dicey here with the remaining 5 quarterbacks, but let's see who I get. All right, it comes up with Derek Carr against Houston. He has not been looking good. It's been low A-dot, check down city for the man. And came out today that Chris Olave has a toe injury. So I am going to
Take
be
him.
spinning.
Take him. Get him out of there. Get him out. No, come on.
Nah, you can have Derek Carr. Let's see who
No.
Evan gets, who he's going to be stuck with on his second spin. Let's go! Derek Carr. Love to see it.
No.
Love to see it. Get him off of the wheel for me. And who am I stuck with this week? Got it.
Hey, you get my leftovers. Jimmy G. Yeah.
Oh man, that was tough. I was really hoping for Gardner Minshew, to be honest. I think that has the potential for a higher scoring game than this one. Patriots have been doing decent against the quarterback, but let's hope for a healthier Devontae Adams this week.
Yeah, Baker and Gardner were my top 2 that I was hoping to get there.
New England's been being outscored crazily, though, so you never know. That defense isn't even looking good, which we all thought was New England's power, their strong point of the team. But they have not been looking good on either side of the ball.
No.
So I mean, it's Jimmy, but maybe a good matchup for him. I mean, maybe not, because Belichick might, find a way to shut down his former QB.
And that defense got loaded up too. They got J.C. Jackson. Chargers traded him away actually for dirt, and he did really good in that defense last year. Or 2 years.
Yeah,
ago.
It'll be interesting to see. I do think that Matthew Judon being out really helps. They don't have an insane pass rush anymore without Judon on that line. So I do think that they have been creeping up towards average in terms of their offensive output, but they did not start off the year hot at all. All right. Mason, you're going to be kicking off the running back Wheel of Misfortune. Love seeing that L on my face. Oh, get that out of here. Ooh.
Is that Kendrick? That's Kendrick.
IJ and Kendra Miller here. We got Kendra going up against Houston. Great matchup for him, but he's still the RB2 in that system. How you feeling, Mason?
I mean, Kendra's probably my third choice on this list, to be honest. But there's a couple other out there that I'd rather take. I think it's just Kamara. He's going to be, he missed 4 weeks. He's still coming back to terms, coming back to form. It really is Kamara's backfield. So I'm going to pass.
All right. He passes. We spin the wheel again. I am up. Let's see who we got. Kendra Miller going up against Houston. I also, it's tough because I agree that I'm honestly on this wheel. I'm eyeing Deonta Foreman against Minnesota.
What?
There's been very few players that have come back from a concussion the week after they got it.
Totally that's normally Sunday to Sunday. This is a Thursday to Sunday game, so he gets a little bit more time to go through protocol.
That is true. That's a very good point, honestly. I still feel like the NFL in general is being very cautious with concussions, especially after last year with Tua. I think that it's a reactive league.
I haven't even heard if he's in protocol. Nobody even knows if he's in protocol right now.
And concussions are unpredictable. It's really hard to tell. Right now, I am going to take Kendra Miller.
I would take him too.
I think it's rough sailing with some of the rest of the running backs we have on this wheel. Just a reminder, we got DeMarcado against the Rams, Foreman against the Vikings, Hill against Tennessee, McLaughlin against Green Bay, and Tajay Spears against Baltimore.
Yeah.
Evan gets Jaleel McLaughlin against the Packers. What are you thinking here?
I'm thinking this wheel has not been very fortunate for me. And I'm gonna pass on it and hopefully get something better on the next spin here.
Well, hey man, this is not. I'm not Bob Barker. This is not the Wheel of Fortune. So that's the name of the game. So you're spinning again. You're saying?
Yeah, I'm gonna spin again. They got some JP Ryan back there. Javonte Williams is gonna play in week 6. So
Javonte
it's a three-headed backfield.
Yeah. Javonte is crazy, bro. Like coming back from the injury last year as early as he did, and now already coming back from the quad injury, just insane. We got Mason stuck with Justice Hill going up against Tennessee. They have been a really tough run defense in terms of stopping players on the ground. But Mason, what do you think about Justice Hill at Tennessee?
I mean, I don't think the matchup's good for him any means. The two people I was looking for, and this questionable kind of starter sit is DeMercado and Foreman. Deontay Ingram is listed as Cardinals number 2 RB for some reason, but he doesn't get touches like he's their backup running back. So DeMercado's already got more reps throughout the season. I think he will have a decent week. Obviously the game script probably won't be in their favor, but I just think the volume will be there enough for him. And then Deontay Foreman, just with the injuries to that backfield, I would have preferred any of them. I'm just glad I didn't get Jaleel, because even with Javonte out last week, they only used him like on the first drive, I believe, really. And then they just stopped after he made some good plays, and I don't get what Sean Payton's doing over there.
Right, he's Jaleel's a big play machine. He's been ripping off big runs nonstop. Same thing with Marvin Mims. He's been ripping off large receptions nonstop, and they need that in Denver. And for whatever reason, Sean Payton refuses to play these guys. So I don't think it's the worst pick here out of some of the unfavorable running backs. He is just one big play away from making it a decent fantasy week. But I agree. I was not looking to get him. I did not take Jaleel off of the wheel. So hopefully, Evan, you don't get him.
No, I got Justice.
Oh, Justice Hill.
Yeah, you
That's
got
right.
Justice. So Jaleel,
I was talking about Jaleel.
Oh, God. Come on. Give me Emery DeMercado. No.
That was definitely the best one on the board.
DeMercado, he was the best one on the board. Yeah, I really was looking to get him. But, Tajay Spears, I'm not actually too upset about that. I definitely am happy that I passed on Jaleel, and I like Tajay Spears more than Jaleel. So the wheel was fortunate enough for me. We'll take it.
Fortunate. We'll see at the end of the week. We thought Romeo Doubs was the best wide receiver pick last week, and he threw up close to a goose. So We'll see how it goes in week 6. All right, moving on to the wide receivers. I am up first this time.
Yeah, who do we got? Who do we got on the list here?
We got Evan. You can read it off. Oh,
Josh
easy lock.
Oh, come on now.
All right, so we'll go through it after I take KJ Osborne going up against Chicago. Chicago, one of the worst ranked offense or defenses against the wide receiver position. There's talks also about the Vikings saying that they're going to use KJ Osborne like Justin Jefferson. He's not Justin Jefferson, but if that means he's going to get 10 to 15 targets, sign me up. And the Vikings also still throwing the ball over 70% of their plays. So happy with that pick for sure. Evan, you are next up.
Yeah, so we got Josh Downs, Jamison Williams, Rashee Rice, Jackson Smith-Njigba, and Jonathan Mingo. And I'm rolling. Am I going to roll with Jamison Williams at Tampa Bay? No, I'm not.
No.
No, I will spin again. I'm spinning every time this week. I'm not liking my first draws at all. Jamison Williams
risking that biscuit.
He's just a pure big threat or big play threat guy. Sure, he could put up a big game, but it's super risky. It's either a big game or nothing.
47% snap share in his first week back. I do expect it to increase. Ooh, Josh Downs against Jacksonville. Locking that in, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Outside of KJ Osborne, this was my next
he was
favorite.
my target.
And yeah, Josh Downs has looked like he's improving every week. And honestly, I think Richardson is more talented than Gardner Minshew. Just Minshew is more he's a vet, he knows the style of the NFL, which I think helps out Josh Downs a lot more, at least fantasy-wise, for now at least. And so I think with Richardson being out and Minshew being in there, Josh Downs can honestly be a decent starter at flex position in certain weeks.
100%.
Yeah. I started him last week, actually, and he did really good for me, obviously.
Yeah, had a career week for him. I love Josh Downs. I think that with Anthony Richardson being out for 4 to 8 weeks and Minshew covering that time, I think Downs is going to be at least a second flex option for teams moving
Yep.
forward during that time. He does have a rough schedule after Jacksonville, but we'll see how it goes.
I
Yep,
think it's
Evan,
back to
you're
me.
up next.
Yeah, back to me.
Oh, I wish you got
Don't give
James.
me. Oh no, Rasheed Rice at Denver. Oh boy. Well, I mean, not the worst. Not the worst. I mean, with Travis Kelce being a little banged up, I am expecting a little bit more targets to be opened up to the wide receivers. I don't even have to. Do I have to say it? Justin Ross. I think he's going to start eating more into the targets.
It's been a while. This
It's
Justin
been a while.
Ross counter is beat up now. We started this about 3 weeks before the season started, but you are now up to 21, sir. Congratulations.
Mm-hmm. And I think I'm the only one rostering Justin Ross in redraft leagues right now, but I have him in 2 leagues because he's going to be efficient this year. I'm telling you, he's going to come in. He's going to come in and play.
Hey, if you guys are playing the Fantasy Rant drinking game at home, you can take a sip every time Evan says Justin Ross.
Yeah.
Don't
Don't bring a strong drink to that party.
That's right. So we got the tight ends up next. On the docket, we got Cade Otton versus Detroit. All of these games are actually home games for these tight ends, I noticed.
That's interesting.
All home games. So Cade Otton against Detroit, Tyler Higbee against Arizona. Really saw that target percentage go down now that Cooper Kupp's back. Dalton Schultz with a couple of good weeks against he's going up against New Orleans this week. We got Tyler Conklin going up against Philly, Gerald Everett up against Dallas, and Durham Smythe, a clear dud, going up against Carolina.
Hey, I'm starting Smythe in my two tight end league.
Oh, you're screwed.
I don't know.
Is it?
Probably.
All right. And Evan, with his first option, gets Tyler Conklin against Philadelphia.
Wait, didn't you start? Aren't you starting this one? You sure? You sure you're not?
No, I started the last.
Yeah.
I
just don't
Oh,
want
okay.
So
your argument was so convincing.
I'm gonna take a pass on Conklin. It's hard to trust really anybody in that Jets offense right now, and Philly's a tough defense, so I'm going to stay away from this. Not to mention, I do like the rookie that they have in the tight end room as well, and Jeremy Ruckert is also another tight end that I like in there too. So I am not high on Conklin at all.
This man just loves some rookie tight ends.
Yeah, I do. I just love rookies. Love rookies.
That's true. Just rookies in general. All right, so we are moving on to Mason. Mason, let's see who you get. Tyler Conklin.
Is he gonna?
I don't want to. No,
double pass. Double pass on Conklin.
I will say, Conklin over the last 4 weeks here, he's had 6'5" and 6'5" targets and 67 yards, 58 yards, 26 yards, 50 yards. No touchdowns over that span, but he's putting up fine streamable tight end. And we know there's no way that the Jets are going to be in a positive game script, so I expect them to pass a lot.
They're playing the Eagles, though, so.
But that's what I'm saying, though. They're playing the Eagles. I knew it was going to happen. Tyler Conklin again. Someone's got to take him, and it's going to be me.
You're taking him? You're taking him.
Tyler Conklin. We won't let the slide fall any further. Let's see who Evan
Watch him be the week winner. Watch him be the week winner for you, Dan.
I'm telling you, man, he's not the worst pick. He's fine as a stream. He's not.
I am happy with this, though. I like Higbee.
Yeah, Higbee definitely saw the target share go down during that time. However, Arizona has been notoriously bad against the tight end position over the last 2 years. So we'll see how that goes. Spin the wheel again. I forgot to take Higbee off. Let's hope this wheel. All right, solid. No Higbee. Hey!
It wouldn't have hit there if Higbee was off the wheel.
Yeah. Changing the odds for him.
Well, I guess Smythe's my tight end, so there's maybe 2 points.
I think he's going to do better for you than that. I do. I got a little bit more faith than Smythe.
You have faith in Smythe, man. I don't know who of the tight ends you don't have faith in. It's a pretty
Tyler
bad
Conklin,
tight
for
end here.
sure. For starters, we'll start with Tyler Conklin. Don't have faith in him. I'd rather have Smythe over him for sure.
You want to make another side bet? Conklin versus
Ooh.
Smythe?
Ooh, yeah, I'll do it.
Let's do
Yeah.
it.
We doing
I
season
love
long
it.
or are we doing week long?
I mean, I'd take either. Whatever
I
you
would
want to
too.
do.
I
I
would
was
take either.
thinking on this week.
Okay, we'll just do this week. And if I lose, we'll double or nothing for the season, right?
I love it. No, hold on. If you lose, if either of us lose.
Just threw that in there real sneaky.
I agreed way too quickly. Either way, I'm confident in this one. Conklin versus Smythe, week 6. All right. So moving on, we have some trade targets. We're going to do one player that you just want to trade for. Doesn't have to be at any level. Then we're going to do a buy low trade target. Somebody that hasn't been necessary, doesn't have the appearance of somebody that's you're going to have to pay up for. And then the last thing we'll do is a trade away target. Each of us will bring up one player in each category. So to kick it off, Mason, I thought your target was pretty interesting right now. Guy coming off of suspension. He's been having a good couple of games. Who do you got as your trade for anyone target?
I'm honestly going to say Alvin Kamara. He's looked pretty solid his first 2 weeks. Obviously, his first week back, his production was saved because he got like 13 catches for like 40 yards. But going into week 5, he looked like he is getting back to form. The Saints passing offense just it does not look good at all. I think they're going to be in a lot of close games because of that defense. I don't think that Saints are going to be all the time in a horrible game script where they're too far behind, where they just fall completely away from the run game. And even if they do, Kamara is one of the greatest pass catching running backs in the league. He's going to, in PPR leagues especially, he's going to get you a good floor every week for that reason. Some people still aren't high on him because, of course, Jamal Williams coming back in a couple of weeks, I believe. And then obviously Kendre Miller being there. So some people aren't as high on him. But it's Alvin Kamara. We've seen him split the backfield before, and he always produces. And his last 2 weeks show that he's still going to be a top producing RB when he is playing.
Do you got any worries about Williams coming back there?
No, I mean, like I was saying, think Mark Ingram when he was there, when him and Kamara were there, they were two of the top running backs in the league together. And Kamara is capable. He's that talented, and he has been before in the past. That he's going to be their lead back no matter what. Jamal Williams might take away some red zone touches, if that, but that's not worrying me too much.
Fair. I like that. You're making me feel better about having my ownership stake in Kamara too.
Kamara's put up some pretty respectable numbers in the first week. The targets per the yards per reception in week 1 was ridiculous. So there was a stat I think I heard from the footballers. They had anybody with 13 receptions, the fewest amount of yards they had put up over the course of the NFL. I believe it was 76 yards, and Kamara had 33 yards on 13 receptions.
Yeah.
That was pretty ugly. They have a strong return in week 5. Definitely not putting up those same type of efficiency numbers, but he is the clear workhorse in this backfield. And Houston's a great matchup. So if you are going to trade for him, don't do it past this week. His stock is going to go dramatically up after this game. Try to get that trade in before week 6 happens.
And actually, I looked into that stat a little bit further. Second on that list was Austin Eckler. So take that with a grain of salt.
So a running back, you're saying, just check down City. So, but however, the one thing I will say about Kamara, and granted, he didn't play up until week 4, but the Saints had the 7th easiest schedule so far up through week 5. Moving forward, they have the 21st easiest schedule. So a bottom 12 schedule in the league moving forward. That being said, though, Kamara is still getting the job done. He's a pass catcher, especially in PPR. Go out and target him before week 6. All right, moving on, Evan. Who is your trade for target?
My trade for target this week is going to be Isaiah Pacheco. I'm a holder in Pacheco, and I was a little bit nervous about him coming into the season. He was not looking great, but he did just come off of off-season surgery, like literally late in the season, late in the off-season too. Like most people get the surgery, right after they win the Super Bowl, but no, not him. He got it like a month before the season starts, so I don't understand why that was the case, and I was worried about it. But the past 3 weeks, he's gotten 15 or more carries, and he's been efficient with them. He's averaging over 4 yards per carry, and he's got a nose for the end zone, scoring a TD in the last 3 games. And, I think it's fair to say that his recovery is behind him. And, if he can get some more receiving work, I think he's got potential for a top 10 finish this year.
Interesting. I don't know if the receiving work is going to be coming his way. Just doesn't seem like they want to use him in that fashion. But I will say right now, Isaiah Pacheco has the easiest schedule for running backs moving forward. Chiefs first easiest, and specifically, again, if you're going to go out and try to trade for Pacheco, do it now. The next 3 weeks, they have Denver, Chargers, and Denver. Denver's 32nd against running backs. Obviously, the game against Miami hurt, but they're not doing well against running backs in any week. And the Chargers 25th in the league against running backs. If I didn't choose the guy that I was going for, Pacheco was one of my trade considerations. So I really like the pick there, and I am trying to actively target him in my leagues. Anything to say about Pacheco, Mason?
I mean, I've been a believer in Pacheco since off season, and like you said, the easy schedule coming up. Obviously, it's the Chiefs, so you will have some weeks if you do trade for Pacheco where it is a little disappointing. But I do think he is the lead ground guy there. I don't think there's much question to it anymore. And I think going forward Chiefs are a winning team a majority of the time. Game script is going to be in the running back's favor a majority of the time. So, I have nothing wrong with trading for Pacheco at all. I'm obviously not giving up the house. I don't think he's worth top 12 running back, trade worthy. But, he's a good RB2 to be trying to pick up that some people are still low on him. So try to feed off those owners.
Yeah, right. There's a lot of running backs out there that are in that similar boat where some people might be concerned. Right now, I didn't bring him up as a trade target on this segment, but I do think Ramondre Stevenson is one of those guys. He is heading in the wrong direction in terms of snap share. But the Patriots have had a couple of ugly games, a shutout and then 3 points. So 3 points over the last 2 weeks. I really think that targeting Stevenson, you won't have to send much to get him. Just a guy that I wanted to throw out there, even though I'm not including him in this segment. The guy I am including in this segment is Christian Watson. So Christian Watson right now, he's coming off of that injury. In his first week back, only had a 46% snap share. In his second week, let's see here, he moved up to an 84% snap share. Came out of that without any injury report, and now he has the bye week to truly get to 100%. It was a little bit concerning seeing Love look so ugly against a Raiders defense that is one of the defenses you want to target. But I think that's part of the argument you can make if you're trying to target Christian Watson. He only had 11 targets and 5 receptions in his first 2 games back. He had, again, pretty below average performances. A touchdown bailed him out in week 4, and a 70-plus yard reception bailed him out in week 5. That being said, though, that's one of the reasons why I think he's a trade for target. You're not going to have to, even though this isn't my buy low guy, you're not going to have to spend too much to get Christian Watson. And I think better days are ahead of him. I don't think Jordan Love is so bad that I'm avoiding his wide receivers. I don't think he's so good that I'm especially targeting him. But moving forward, the Packers have a pretty favorable schedule for wide receivers moving forward. It's the second easiest schedule uh, for the rest of the season. And during his 2 weeks back, definitely aided by that long 70-yard reception. But he does have 2.37 yards per route run, which is 18th amongst wide receivers with at least 11 targets, which is the bare minimum of what he has. But specifically during week 4 and 5, when he was back, he had the second deepest A dot of any wide receiver playing in that time, and the second most yards per reception during that time. Always a big play away from making your fantasy day. I think you can get a cheap addition to your team that can win you some weeks in the later weeks of the season.
Yeah, I love that. I do think that Christian Watson is going to be, somebody that I wish I had more shares of, and I'm going to be trying to get him too. But I just don't know. He might be a little too pricey. I think people do have higher expectations on him too as well.
Yeah, that's fair.
I mean, the one thing about Watson is that Packers team is so banged up, the O-line and everything else. I think Bakhtiari is out the entire season, which is the Packers' best O-line. I believe they had another injury to it last week. I may be wrong, or it was the injury before. So, I mean, like even the Packers game, their last game that they just played, they looked ugly all around. I mean, Watson only had a good production because of that huge, like, 70-yarder or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that, I'm a believer in Love, and I just think the Packers, with all the injuries, are going to have a lot of growing pains going on. Watson, I think, will continue to improve his numbers throughout the season, but we may have to wait a little while till like towards the end when this team is finally getting it all together and Matt LaFleur figures out whatever the hell he's doing. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. It just Watson has a lot of upside, but the Packers really need to figure out what they're doing as an offense before I am really super confident to go out and target Christian Watson too much around my leagues.
Right. And again, I do want to emphasize that one of the reasons I'm bringing him up is because I don't think you need to go and trade a top end talent to go and get him. And then especially if you're in a dynasty league, I think that Christian Watson might, even though he's young, even though he's talented, might be a manager out there that is looking to win now and is down on Watson. So you might be able to get him on the cheap. But let's move on to our buy low targets. I thought that one of the most interesting buy low targets out here that we have is Mason's. Mason's. Let's see what you got for your buy low target.
I mean, Justin Jefferson. And so obviously if you're in a redraft league, it's really going to depend on your situation. Are you 1-4 and we're trying to make a playoff push? No, you're not going to get Justin Jefferson. But say you're 5-0, 4-1, and your rest of your team's solid. You have a 1-4 owner with Justin Jefferson. They obviously need to get rid of him, try to get some value so they can make the playoffs. You need to go look at those owners, try to get JJ, hold off for a couple weeks, hope you go 3-1, maybe 2-2, and then JJ's back in. You could have one of the best teams in the league because you could be buying him for an all-time low right now. Dynasty, I mean, it's going to be hard to sell him or to not to sell him, to acquire him unless somebody is very desperate to fill their wide receiver position right now. Last year I managed to get Jamar Chase off of someone for relatively low when he went off like on the 4-week injury or whatever it was. So maybe you could try to squeeze Jefferson out for Dynasty, but he's probably still the same price in Dynasty. But in redraft, really just look at who has Jefferson in your league. And if it's a guy whose team is underperforming, he might be more willing to give up Jefferson.
Ooh, yeah. I as an owner of Justin Jefferson, in literally half of my 8 leagues, this was a tough one for me. And I know that there's been people trying to send me offers, and I'm still not selling on him. So you might have some stubborn people like me in your leagues not be able to get him. But I totally agree. If you can get him, get him.
I was one of those guys. As soon as Justin Jefferson went down, you had a league where it's specifically it's a super flex league, it's a 2 tight end league, it's a point per rushing first down league. but it's also PPR. And I went RB heavy in that league, doing well in it. I am looking to get Justin Jefferson since I think it's what, 7-1? No, 9-1, whatever it is. I am trying to get this guy on my team. Evan wouldn't do it. I have quarterbacks for days. It's a super flex league, and even including, I believe it was Gardner Minshew, and who was the other wide receiver I tried to sell you? Doesn't matter.
It was Cortland Sutton.
Cortland Sutton. So in a super flex league, with you having close to no quarterbacks anymore and one on bye, I was trying to sell it, get what I can for Justin Jefferson, see if you guys can go and pick him up on the cheap. Guys are probably still going to be hesitant to do it. He is the best wide receiver in the league. But let's move on to Evan's buy low target. Evan, who you got?
So my buy low target here is going to be a fan favorite. This could be a homer one, but Quentin Johnson. I love Quentin Johnson. Week 4 before the bye was his first time playing more than 27% of the snaps. He played over 50% of the snaps. So Mike Williams leaves behind a ton of opportunity, and that has shown as the snap count. But it hasn't really shown in the numbers. So I think that he's still very, very cheap. And people are probably even considering dropping him if Josh Palmer has another hype or a good game. But I expect him to have his first touchdown in the next 3 games, and I expect the increase in usage to continue while Mike Williams is out for the year. And this year we really haven't seen anything that would kind of justify this through stats or numbers or anything like that. But if you were paying attention in the offseason, he was showing out with ridiculous catches. And as a Chargers fan, I was tuned into that, and I cannot wait to see some of those ridiculous catches happen on the field live. But hopefully that's not more of a hope and prayer and more of a realistic situation. What do you guys think?
I think on the plus side, I agree with you. The physical talent has been shown, and that you have Justin Herbert as your quarterback. I would take the third wide receiver for Justin Herbert, especially a deep target in a Kellen Moore offense, over pretty much anybody's wide receiver 3 on their team. They're coming out of their bye week. That's a lot of times where teams start to make some changes. So there is hope. However, the Chargers do have the 30th easiest schedule moving forward. It's going to be a little bit tough, and he hasn't really done anything to prove himself so far. Even with his 51% snap share that he had in week 4 against the Raiders, caught 1 of 3 targets for 18 yards. Had it wasn't the easiest catch, but had a drop downfield. So I do think that Joshua Palmer is going to be the play out of those 2 wide receivers for the next few weeks. But there's still hope that Quentin Johnson can work himself into a prominent role.
Well, Dan, all I got to say is that's why it's a buy low, because Quentin Johnson has not been performing well. He is a rookie. I do think he is going to improve as well throughout the season. I mean, it's Herbert. That team passes the ball pretty good amount of time, pretty efficient passing most of the time as well. I mean, he's got to get some more more targets. He's going to, with just how much they invested into him. Just once he proves that, and he's shown enough that he is really ready for this NFL level, I think Herbert will be throwing the ball his way along.
Yeah, they do still have the perception of a pass-heavy team. Right now, through 5 weeks, they are 17th in the league in terms of passing percentage. And it seems like with Keenan Allen being the stud that he is, Joshua Palmer knowing the offense, and now Austin Eckler's back. So I think there is argument that maybe it's Eckler as that third target, or even Gerald Everett as that third target rather than Quentin Johnston. But I am still holding hope, just like I'm still holding hope for Jackson Smith coming out of the bye week, that they make some changes and get these very talented wide receivers involved. All right. For my trade target, I have Jared Goff. Ordinarily, I'm not a guy who is trying to trade for quarterbacks. But right now, Jared Goff, he has the 5th easiest schedule moving forward. So far, he's played against the Chiefs, the Seahawks, the Falcons, the Packers, and Carolina. Those teams are 8th, 21st, 13th, 11th, and 14th toughest opponents against quarterbacks. Goff, that is the 25th toughest schedule faced during the first 5 weeks. And during that time, he's QB 10. He's been performing admirably. He's not going to be the guy that really, truly blows up. But at the same time, he hasn't played with all of his stars yet. He's got Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams, Sam Laporta, and Jahmyr Gibbs. None of them have played a full game together. So I'm really looking for Jared Goff to continue as an efficient passer. Right now, PFF has him as the highest graded passer in the league. He's 6th in completion percentage, 9th in passing yards, 7th in passing touchdowns, while only throwing 3 interceptions. For the PFF stat heads out there, he's 6th in big time throws and 3rd lowest in turnover worthy plays. His adjusted completion percentage, which takes away drops and throwaways, he's number 1 in the league. He's throwing 82.9% on his passes that aren't dropped or just throwaways, trying to get rid of the ball.
Mhm.
And on top of it, he's efficient downfield. He's getting his best downfield playmaker available to him just a week ago and not even on a full snap percentage. And still yet, he is first in completion percentage downfield, throwing 68.8% of his 20-plus yard targets for completions. That is 10.5 percentage points higher than the next closest guy, your boy Brock Purdy. But yeah, next closest is at a 58.3% completion percentage with those 20-plus yard passes. And again, hasn't really had that guy that stretches the field until now. So I think that especially behind an elite offensive line and with a creative play caller like Ben Johnson, and then Jahmyr Gibbs still not yet to show his true ceiling. I think that he's got his downfield threat coming his way with Jameson Williams. Sam Laporta is a great uh, stretcher down the hash line. You know, you can stretch the field from multiple positions. And then if it's not there, you can check down to Jahmyr Gibbs. David Montgomery is still a solid pass catcher out of the backfield as well. And Amon-Ra St. Brown is coming back from that injury. Hopefully he can get to 100% soon. But yeah, I think that Jared Goff, if you are hurting at quarterback, or maybe you took a shot on Anthony Richardson, you got Geno Smith as your backup. Neither of them are quite living up to expectation. Go send out a low ball offer for Jared Goff. Send him for one of your bench players. Plenty of teams hurting at running back right now. If you got a decent running back on your bench, throw him at Jared Goff. You'll probably get a deal done. And again, with the 5th easiest schedule moving forward, I really think that he could end up being like a top 8 quarterback, which feels disgusting, but
So gross.
it is. It's gross. It's gross. I hate saying it, but I think that he's an easy buy low candidate. What do you guys think about Jared Goff, though?
I actually I do like it too. I mean, Mason, you're going to agree with me here too?
Yeah, no, I mean, the only thing that I can disagree with what Dan said was he said Purdy wrong. It's future MVP Brock Purdy.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Just had to clear the air there. Yeah, that makes total sense. But no,
That is going to be like next year. You know how they're doing like the NFL script? You know, that's going to be the commercial next year.
MVP, Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant to MVP.
I mean, yeah, he's like, I think he's 3rd favorite right now, like on for odds to win MVP. And one of the people he's behind is Mahomes, which I don't honestly understand how he's behind Mahomes right now. Mahomes is playing like,
playing so. I mean, it's Mahomes. It's odds for the end of the year.
Yeah.
People are going to expect
Getting Brady treatment.
If Mahomes had Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, and Christian McCaffrey, he would be putting up godly numbers.
Yeah. I mean, he's got guys better than that, like Justin Ross, but I mean, you know,
oh my God,
he's not using them. He's not using them. Yeah,
Take
throw it on there, stack them up. Yeah, take another drink, guys.
If you're 21, take a drink.
Yeah. But I love it too. The weapons that he's got is way more powerful than I thought he was going to have. Like I cannot believe what's going on with the tight end 1 right now. Sam Laporta. I cannot
crazy.
believe that, and that's amazing for Goff to have as like a dependable target outside of Amon-Ra St. Brown. And you're right; they're getting their field stretcher back, and they haven't used him yet, but he's back.
He is back.
Shout
He's
out to
excited.
Laporta for inspiring the Niners to do that flea flicker play to get the touchdown to
Yeah.
Kittle.
Dude, that was gorgeous. It was exact. Did you see the side by side?
Yeah,
Like,
it looks like
that's
dead on,
right.
except Kittle had like 3 more yards or something like that.
The copycat league, but hey, man, we'll take it where we can get
There's
it.
no way they practice it in time to do it. Like they probably do both.
Oh no, they've been
the same.
Kittle said they had been practicing it, and then he was sitting there watching that game and said, "I'm going to tell Shanny we got to run this."
To perfection, especially when you have that threat of tossing it out of the backfield to McCaffrey, and you just toss it back, and they're like, "Oh, okay, the best tight end blocker in the league is actually 30 yards downfield. We should probably go cover him."
We should probably do something about it.
Probably do something about that. Maybe not. All right, so moving on to our trade away targets. I thought this was a good segment to bring up. I feel like everyone talks about guys you want to bring onto your team, but how about some guys that are doing well that you need to part ways with? I think there's too many teams out there that start off the year 5-0, 4-1, and they become complacent and don't start looking at the bigger picture. So we got 3 trade away targets for you guys. Mason, why don't you kick it off?
So for my trade away, I'm going D-Hop. He obviously had an electric week 5. I mean, you can throw your thumbs down. Tannehill sucks. I mean, there's the competition between him and Treylon. There's just not enough passing efficiency to go around to really give them both value in fantasy weeks. And might as well sell D-Hop because, some people will just follow that hype train. Oh, one good week, he's going to keep doing that. Nah, I don't think D-Hop's going to be a very consistent receiver throughout the year. So, maybe try to send out an offer after he had his best week so far. You might get some biters. Also, don't be, surprised if you don't get any biters. But yeah, try to find the people that follow the hype and get them off your team.
So you hear that? If anybody is in a league with Mason and he's got D-Hop, send him the offers because you're going to want that boy on your team. He is. I mean, I don't understand how you're saying one game is not going to happen again. He's shown consistently year over year for a long time. So maybe that's not helping his case. That how long of his career he's already gone through. But he's that guy. He's somebody that I'm fully confident going to have very, very good production going forward too. Consistent.
I mean, I'm not saying he's not going to have another week like he did maybe once or twice throughout the season, but I just don't think he's going to put up consistent numbers throughout the rest of the season.
I'm interested to see if you would trade him for anybody else on this trade away list.
That'll be interesting. We should definitely go through that at the end. See, of our players we're trying to trade away, who would we want? Who would we want to trade away?
I like that. Just making up, make tangents on our segments midstream. That's how we do things over here.
Yeah, that's how professionals do it, right? They just free ball it.
Yeah. Shoot. You got anything else to add for that, Dan?
I just think that he is safe in the sense that no one else is threatening him. Right now, Chig Okonkwo, he's not doing anything right now. He had a decent week 5 just in terms of his targets. He looks like he's getting more involved. Hasn't done anything with those yet. Still a run-first offense, even though Derrick Henry's not putting up great numbers. But Treylon Burks hasn't really performed. I know he's been a little bit injured here and there throughout the season. I think that he's safe for getting 8 to 10 targets, which generally I'm chasing. But he hasn't done too much with those 8 to 10 targets per game. So I'm really not. It sounds lame, but I'm pretty neutral as far as D-Hop goes. I think you can flex him. But based on, I believe he had an average draft position around the 5th, 6th round, not living up to that potential. So I do think that it's a decent enough trade away target. But yeah, Evan, let's move on to your trade away target.
My trade away target is going to be Javonte Williams. We talked about him a little bit earlier on the show. He's in a 3-headed backfield. They got P. Ryan taking away the receiving work. Jaleel, we brought up he's got some juice. Jaleel looks pretty solid. And, Javonte still has pretty good market value, so be able to get something good in return for him. Mostly, I think, because of what he's done in the past, because he hasn't put up great numbers this year. And it's just, I don't know. Coming off the serious knee injury, it's difficult for a lot of these RBs to come back to their previous form. I loved him in his previous form. I just don't know if we're going to get there again this season.
Yeah. It's I'm waiting for what the Jets just did with Brees Hall, where they're like, all right, you're back to full form. You're definitely our best running back. Let's just give you all of the touches. And it hasn't happened yet. Right now, they're still giving Jaleel some touches, and he's been incredibly efficient with that. Right now, he's ripping off 7.2 yards per carry, definitely aided by some bigger runs, but you can't take that away from the man.
Yeah.
And when Jaleel's ripping off big runs, Javonte's not touching the ball. And there's less yards for him, less receptions for him. And I feel like part of the appeal with Javonte was the receiving game.
Yeah.
Since week 1, he hasn't had more than 3 targets, hasn't had more than 23 yards receiving. And again, I just don't see this Broncos offense being something to worry about. So, I think it, again, like you said, with the name value that you can get out of Javonte Williams, and specifically with all of the running back injuries going on, I think that you could definitely get a decent trade by just sending him away 1-for-1. Mason or Evan, who would you be trading for by sending away Javonte Williams? Realistically, though.
I would trade for Hopkins. I don't know if that's realistic or not, but I would totally take Hopkins over Javonte right now. And I'd take him over. I'd take your trade away over Javonte right now, too.
We'll tease that. We'll tease that a little bit.
I mean, with Javonte, just because the running back position is pretty scarce, injuries, all of that, I would say I'm looking at trading him for a higher tier flex start. Like, I can't specifically get any names off my head, but
How about Alexander Madison? Would you guys trade Javonte Williams for Alexander Madison?
No.
No.
But that's somebody you can't even trade away.
Madison?
Yeah, I don't think many people would be trying to buy Madison.
Right. There's just so many question marks going around that team right now.
He didn't have his best week last week, so maybe.
Not last week. Or you said he didn't have his best week last week?
No, he did. He have the touchdown last week?
2 weeks ago.
That was 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. I mean, on the ground, had his best week in terms of fantasy points. It was week 3 against the Chargers. But yeah, last week he was 8 for 26. Had 2 receptions on 3 targets. He did have a receiving touchdown, which kind of saved his week. Overall, has been pretty inefficient on the ground. I still think I might lean the Madison side there, as ugly as it feels. Maybe with Jefferson going out, and Cousins isn't a mobile quarterback. He might be checking down a little bit more frequently. Cam Akers has the threat there still, but he's not a receiving back. So I think at the bare minimum, Madison will keep his receiving work up. It's tough to talk about Javonte without knowing if they're ever really going to set him free this season. I think that out of all of the running backs in terms of dynasty, I'd be trading for Javonte. I like his future still. And somehow, again, this guy just keeps on coming back from injuries quicker than expected. So it's pretty crazy, his recovery from these injuries. But I do like Javonte in dynasty, much less so in redraft.
Yeah, I mean, definitely dynasty still be high up on him. I mean, coming off of, the torn ACL. It was torn ACL, right?
Yeah, plus some.
Yeah.
Plus that, and then his hip injury that he got 2 weeks ago or whatever. I mean, he's just so banged up right now. He probably won't be full form this whole season just because he continues to get banged up, and can never let his body get to 100%. But dynasty, I mean, Denver has a lot to build off of, and running back is definitely not their focus right now. They already got Javonte, who, last year was pretty solid when he was healthy. So, yeah, I mean, Denver's got so many other holes to fix before they decide to even think about moving away from Javonte Williams.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, so moving on to the last trade target. I have Brian Robinson Jr. as the trade away target. Through his first 5 weeks, he had the speaking and first easiest schedule adjusted to expectation. This is based off of the footballers. They have average fantasy points above expectation. So basically, how did those teams expect to do, and how did they actually perform? Brian Robinson had the first easiest schedule. Moving forward for the rest of the season, the Commanders face the 23rd easiest schedule. Again, just general fantasy points scored against teams, and the 32nd easiest schedule. So the toughest schedule moving forward, adjusted to expectation. During those first 5 weeks, when he had the first easiest schedule, adjusted to expectation, 184 yards on the ground on 49 attempts. 184 yards is 22nd amongst running backs. 3.8 yards per attempt, that's 31st, pretty inefficient. Only had the one rushing touchdown, so even where you're hoping he excels and he's getting a lot of that red zone work, he only had one rushing touchdown. Also, I think people think of Brian Robinson as a bit of a bruiser, a guy who can break some tackles. However, over those first 5 games, 2.47 yards after contact. That's 40th amongst qualifying running backs. He's only forced 8 missed tackles per PFF. That's 24th. He's not a fast guy. He's not breaking away long runs. He only has 4 runs of 10 plus yards during that time, 25th in the league. And on top of it all, it looked like he might be getting some of the passing works down. But now we've seen, after the Commanders have had 2 embarrassing losses to the Bears in week 5 and the Bills in week 3. In those games, Brian Robinson, let's start. Antonio Gibson in week 5 against the Bears, 54% snap share. In week 3 against the Bills, 61% snap share. During those same games, in week 5, Brian Robinson had a 36% snap share, and against the Bills in week 3, a 37% snap share. That's very low, where I think we all thought the Commanders as an above average defense at the bare minimum, but they have shown the ability to blow games, not look like even like an average defense. And I think in those games, despite Antonio Gibson's fumble worries, they've shown that they're not going to keep Brian Robinson in those situations or on 2-minute drills. So I think Brian Robinson has put up good enough numbers for you to be able to trade him for someone decent. Again, especially with the running back landscape looking how it is with a ton of injuries. Go try and sell him to the Devon A-Chain manager. Go see who had Nick Chubb at the beginning of the year. Look for the guys that don't have a ton of guys on their roster. In my work league, I just traded Jeff Wilson for George Pickens straight up. I think that Jeff Wilson can be fine over the next 4 weeks with A-Chain out. I'm taking the upside of Pickens, however, for sure.
Yeah, you definitely should.
100%, and so it's interesting. It's league dependent, it's team dependent, but go out and find those guys who don't have any more running backs left. They're going to eat up the chance to get Brian Robinson.
You're trading away a top 12 running back in half PPR formats. So he's productive. He's getting work. He's productive. I can't see him as a trade away. I would definitely rather have Brian Robinson over Javonte Williams right now.
I mean, honestly, I'm agreeing trade away Brian Robinson. Like Dan was saying, the 2 games that they had that were ugly against the Bears and the Bills, his snap percentage went down a lot. And you could look at Washington's schedule. It's not an easy schedule for the rest of the season. I mean, that division is tough. Giants aren't looking the best. Maybe they improve, though. And those are division rivalries. You never know what's going to happen in those games anyways. And then I think
the Cowboys and Eagles, who are both top 5 at stopping the run.
They play the Niners, I believe, in week 16 or 17. Yeah, week 17, which is championship week for a lot of people. Besides that, they got Miami, which Miami should kick the crap out of them. So they're not going to be running the ball a ton. Philly, Seattle, Rams, Jets. Jets have a great defense. And then, Niners. His playoff schedule is awful for fantasy. His fantasy playoff schedule is not somewhere where you want to have him.
100%. Yeah. And then even in week 14, when you're trying to get into the championship, he has a bye. So it's not looking good for Robinson owners. Really quickly, let's touch on who we would have keep. Brian Robinson. I'm sorry, Evan. Remind me of your trade.
Javonte Williams. I would sell Javonte Williams to both D Hop and Brian Robinson.
Okay, I would personally take Javonte of the three, just because of the schedule. Mason, who do you think?
I'd take Javonte out of those three as well.
I'd take D Hop. D Hop would be my main one.
Interesting. All right, so there you have it. You got some trade for targets, some trade away. Go out there, do what you will with that information. We just want you guys to make the best decisions possible for your fantasy roster. Go out there, make sure if you made it this far, give us a follow. Check out the stadiumrant.com page. We got tons of great articles out there. And have yourself a good week 6. Take it easy, boys.
Peace.